Hello and welcome to the Jackcast, your Doube Swansea City podcast. I'm Matt Barocco and I'm joined as ever by a jubilant Stephen Carroll. Evening, Steve.
Evening.
And we promised we'd get him back when it was more about the happenings on the pitch rather than the antics off it, and we kept true to our word, so it's a very warm welcome once again to ex-Trust Chairman and equally jubilant Andy Godden. It's nice to have you in more positive circumstances, Andy.
Well, yes, God, beating the scum 3-2. Can't get better than that, can it? Especially in 99th minute winner for Ben as well. So, yep, absolutely chuffed, mate. Absolutely chuffed.
Great to have you on. Well, I don't know. Football is complete, isn't it? I just don't know what there is else to achieve, Steve, after the goings-on of the last 12 years. After that all happened, all we could do is really play against them again, batter them, and do the Doube last season, which is what happened. And then we were just left with, well, can we repeat the feat, create new history as the first team to ever win 4 back-to-back, but this time break their hearts into a million pieces in the process. Incredible.
Yeah, I think we all thought it's never going to get better than what happened last year. Really, I mean the humiliation on their own turf to do the Doube. But Saturday tops the lot. It's never ever going to get better than that. It's pointless hoping for it. We're just so lucky that we've had a moment like that. I honestly think the only thing that would be better would be an equivalent of an Aguero moment. I don't think it gets better as like a one-off game. We've achieved more as a club than this. We've had things that we should be proud of and stuff like that. But the sheer emotion was unbeatable. Like it can't get better than that. I'm still on cloud 9, and we're over 48 hours after the full-time whistle, and yeah, there's no feeling like this. It's unbelievable.
It's just right. We have to go back. We have to go back to the start of Saturday, because you were at the home of the head slappers, of course, Steve, as were 2,200 others. So let's talk us through your morning and your journey up there, because I'm sure there are so many listening to this podcast who want to relive that day through your experience.
So, bit of a ritual now for a couple of us. So this is the third time in a row we've done it. We bank statement for breakfast, and then straight to the railway by about 10 o'clock. And we've done this not if we've been home or away, because obviously if we've been home, you'd probably have to leave the ground about 11:30 for a 12 o'clock kick-off. And the buses were leaving at 11:30 for Cardiff away. So, yeah, did that. And then, like I say, we're in the pub about 10. It was absolutely rammed in the railway. Like, it's always very busy before a Cardiff away. But, like, it wasn't as busy as that at about 10 o'clock last year. Like, you couldn't move hardly. You could barely get to the bar. Yeah, it was nuts. And then, obviously, all the usual songs are on the jukebox, like Daydream Believer. It's always good. You know, it's just that, like, nervous tension in the air, really. Everyone's, looking forward to it, knowing it's a big day. But also sort of wanting it out of the way, because, you just don't know how it's going to go. And, obviously, the journey to Cardiff is quite slow. It was like that again this time, but it was a bit of a shambles. I've got to be honest about this. Like, the toilet was like shut on the bus, and I think a lot of buses had this issue. And you're thinking, well, it's a basic human right to be able to use the toilet. Why on earth is it shut? So I went to get on the bus, and I needed to go, as you do after a few drinks. And the steward on the bus more or less said, "Oh, the toilet isn't open, and once you're on, you can't get back off." And I'm thinking to myself, you can't be serious here, because I'm getting on. We won't leave that quickly. We'll crawl up the M4. Now, we can't expect people to hang on for about an hour here, for the toilet. And obviously, you're not going to be the only one. So, yeah, it was ridiculous. In the end, she did reluctantly let me off. But I'm thinking, what's this all about, So, yeah, that's something that's got to be looked at. You can't go shutting toilets on buses in this situation. But, yeah, like I said, we crawled up there. Then we did eventually, obviously, get to Cardiff West Services, the usual drill, everybody off. You can go to the shop or anything like that. Then luckily, I was in one of the earlier buses to go in this time. So I think I was in the ground by about 1:30. So it's not too bad. Then you can get a pint in and get some food or something like that. And then, yeah, the usual carnage in the, obviously in the concourse. And obviously we had a certain Lee Trundle as one of our ringleaders of the singing. So, yeah, that was good. It always it's brilliant, isn't it? We always seem to see, ex-players in the away end. We had Leon last season. We had obviously McBurney and Roden previous to that. So it just really feels like the ex-players really buy into it. And I'm sure some of the other ones would have been in there if they didn't have other engagements on Saturday. But it's it is quite special to see some of these guys in the away end, and you could tell Trundle was loving it.
It's lovely, and it's just something that we've got that they just don't seem to have at the info. That we've got that close connection to ex-players who still hang around. We very regularly see the likes of Trundle and Robinson and Leon, Steve in the railway after a Swans game, don't we? And have a quick chat with them and things. They do still mix with the locals. They do still hang around. It's great. Andy, I love the fact that we've been able to get you on and I'm not grilling you about the trust, or at least I'm not starting by grilling you about the trust. But
me too.
What a day for this club.
Oh, it's unbelievable. No, I didn't go, and I was very envious of those that did in the end. The whole bubble trip is a nightmare, isn't it? Nobody enjoys it, and it does put a lot of people off, especially including myself. But no, to have been there for that atmosphere, you could tell across watching on the stream. The atmosphere just seemed electric. And especially in the first half and winning, and then, well, of course, especially at the end then. But watching the videos, you could see, I saw Trundle singing in the concourse, and loads of videos doing the rounds, on the buses there, in the concourse there, and it just seemed brilliant. And as you say, I think that is a difference between our clubs, isn't it? That some of the ex-players do come there and go to the games. You do see them around town as well. Leon's quite a regular in Uplands, for example. It just seemed a brilliant day, and I'm very jealous that you went, Steve, and I didn't.
Well, off air we were talking about this, and I said I have to go to Cardiff away purely because if you get a moment like Saturday and I'm not there, I'll be devastated. And I suppose it's sort of come true. I know it can go the other way. The Chopra one springs to mind as being horrendous, but we've got our own back for that one, and this one was surely more painful. So thank God for that. Oh
yeah. Yeah, it's not the first time we've seen this earlier, haven't we? It's not the first time we scored a winner against him in injury time. I remember Matt Bound in the late 90s, early 2000s, and that was just spectacular. That was. But nothing better than the last minute winner against them, is there? It's the last kick of the game. But 99th minute's taking the piss, isn't it? That is something. But
I found something quite interesting today on Twitter, which was some pre-match comments from Cardiff players, and Bray and Mark Harris was chatting, and Harris said that it would be nice for them to get the revenge and get one over on us. He predicted an early goal or last minute winner. Well, he is actually from Swansea, so I'm not actually sure he was wrong, because we had both an early goal and a last minute winner, Steve, and what an absolute dream start for us inside 2 minutes. It's just, you couldn't script it. It was Joel Perreault, we talked about him this season. We talked about how he didn't seem to be switched on, whatever, but he seemed back to his old self on Saturday, and a finish which looked more a place of his last season's instincts than this one. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I didn't feel hugely confident going into the game, to be honest. I think obviously we haven't been playing brilliantly. I think it's well known my thoughts on our goalkeeper, and I'm sure we'll get on to him shortly. But look, you never expect to score that early. But I just remember seeing Perreault getting in, and you're instantly, there's that standard thing, which obviously we'll talk about later with the winner, but the ooh of him being in, and then obviously he smashes it, it goes in. I've ended up on the floor within a couple of seconds, jumped, and then it's just absolute carnage again, and you almost can't believe it. You think, God, not again. Surely we can't keep winning this game, and we can't keep inflicting misery. And you think it's literally taken 2 minutes for us to, just bring them back down to earth again, and just in dreamland. There's no feeling like it as though when you get a goal in the derby, and I can't remember us scoring an earlier one.
No, I think when you start like that, and there's all those pre-match nerves, we did obviously get an early one last year, didn't we, with Obafemi was fairly early on, wasn't it? But it was just to just kill all that pre-match anticipation, all that we're going to get at you. You don't ever know how a game is going to turn out. I think Russell Martin said last year, within about 30 seconds of the kickoff, Norton just put his foot on the ball, and he just thought, "Yeah, we're gonna be fine today." And it was just like that complete calm and just composure. If whilst we didn't have Kyle Norton on the pitch, the way we approached the game, and I was talking pre-match, in fact, a couple of hours before kick-off, saying, please, Russell Martin, be brave and stick with the team that run Millwall ragged, apart from a crazy 5 minutes where we threw the game away, and beat Bristol City comfortably at home. Stick with that single man in the pivot role of Matt Grimes and have the 3 attacking midfielders behind the 2 strikers, because we shown this season we really struggle to defend, and our strengths very much can lie with hurting the opposition. The control we had in the opening 35 minutes was, for me, we made that statement demonstrably true in that he was right to stick with the team and ease the nerves, because we just dominated the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been so many times this season we've started games really well, but we've scored goals or not or whatever. But we generally do play quite well in the first half. I thought we took it up another level, didn't we, on Saturday? I think it was far and away the best I've seen us that first 30. Whether it's because they're really shit or not, I don't know. But we were dancing around them. It was playing some really fast passing, just moving around them, making them like store dummies, But it was just beautiful to watch. It really was. It was like the old times, wasn't it? Just seeing us pass and move was just glorious. And obviously, I think the early goal obviously helped. But it wasn't just that, was it? It was after that we were doing it, and they weren't really threatening at all. And we had a few chances that first half where the ball just, maybe we played it a bit too early, or the run went a bit too late, or it was just a bit too heavy, or whatever. But we would cut them to ribbons at times, and there only looked like one team that was going to score that first half, and it was us. And that's what happened early on, and obviously that's what happened afterwards as well. But we were good that first half, we really were.
Yeah, it's a testament, Steve, isn't it, that after beating the likes of Hudson with his complete lack of experience and Steve Morrison with his lack of experience, that we come up against a manager with experience in Lamucci, and it looked like Cardiff came with something of a game plan, albeit it appeared ineffective now. To look at their high line and how high they were pressing us up the pitch, knowing like in previous years where we might have had the likes of Obafemi to stretch that back line, which we don't have now. The test in our fact that we haven't got the pace necessarily to get in behind, push high, pressure the midfield. But we countered it so well, and the second goal was that coming to fruition. We got in behind a few times, but that second goal, perfectly timed run from Joel Perreault. And look, we've spoken about it before on this podcast. His shot comes off the post. I think that might be 4 this season that Cullen has scored directly off the woodwork from a Perreault shot. It's just, the man has an instinct that you cannot teach. He gets goals because he knows where to put himself. And it's all well and good. He'd be the best striker in the world, but if he's not in the 6-yard box in that moment of time, he's not scoring. So congratulations to him. Love a local boy scoring in a local derby, as we've spoken about Joe Allen for so many years now. Liam Cullen adds his name to that list.
Yeah, well, obviously the celebration was brilliant as well, because you could see what it meant to him, just kissing the badge to their fans. It's got to be done, isn't it? But look, as you say, it's a good ball. They played this high line because, let's be honest about it, we don't have a lot of pace, so I can understand why they think that's a good tactic to use. But if Perreault is on form and obviously gets himself in, you're going to be in trouble. So, yeah, obviously he didn't score. But as you say, I mean, it's Cullen just does have this great instinct, doesn't he? I mean, I think we said before, we don't necessarily think he's a top player, but he does have this great instinct, and he should be in the team. There's no two ways about it for me. And as you were talking about earlier, I think we're better when we do play with this like diamond in midfield and 2 up top. So there's no reason at all why Cullen shouldn't play. His goals to minutes must be very high. So look, a great moment. We're in dreamland, and I just remember looking around the ground and thinking to myself, they're streaming out already. I've actually got a Cardiff fan who's I used to work with, and he started doing a bit of stewarding there. So I did message him yesterday and just say, look, I know that must have been awful. I said, what was it? So I did ask what it was like. I didn't gloat or anything. And he said that one guy did actually leave at 2-0. And like when he heard the roar that they got one back, he wanted to come back in, and they wouldn't let him back in because there was no re-entry. And he actually tried to argue that he was just going for a fag break, but he didn't get back in. But he probably dodged the bullet with hindsight. But that's a nice little anecdote too. But yeah, I mean, look, at 2-0, we're in dreamland. We're all thinking it again, aren't we?
That's the thing then, don't you? You don't want to say it, but you're thinking it, aren't you?
Look, I think we're all, and more to the point, not so much we're thinking it, they are thinking it. They're definitely thinking it. Like, I can't believe this has happened again. They've turned up with so many. Obviously, they've sold so many tickets for it, looking forward to it, thinking, right, at some point it's going to turn, and they're like, we're 2 down in half hour again to this lot. And yeah, so even like you say, we're probably all thinking it. You're not saying it. I most certainly did not say it. They're thinking it even more than us.
I could hear the chants around the stadium after the second goal. It's happened again. It's happened again. And I just, the only thing, and Andy, we have to talk about it because it was part of the game, and I really want to, I mean, you can hear it in my voice how happy I am following that result. But straight after scoring, the worst possible reaction from us, and indeed from them, what you don't do after scoring is concede straight away, and it was an absolute horror show all round, but in particularly the man between the sticks.
Yeah, talking of what has happened again, how many times ago? How many times has a shot gone through Fisher this season? But I mean, it did start a little bit before him though, because it was just a regulation lob up front, and Wood didn't exactly cover himself in glory either, missing the header or not getting the tackle in either on the second ball. But there's a regulation shot from the edge of the box straight at the keeper, and I think his head's gone, isn't it? His head's just gone. He just went at him, went straight through him. I mean, how many times has that happened this season? I mean, God, too many to count now. It's just, it
seems to be most goals, that seem like not many goals. We haven't directly contributed from our own defensive mishaps anyway, but recently they also seem to be ones, anything that is on target now seems to find the back of the net and don't even have to be close to the corner, which is a real worry for us.
It is. I mean, you mentioned Millwall. Birmingham mentioned earlier, Steve.
Luke done in there. I know it wasn't a shot.
Oh God, yeah. There's too many of them now. I feel sorry for him. I really do, because you can see he shouldn't be in the position he's in where he's having to play because there's no bugger else. But he needs taken out of the firing line for his own good as much as anything, because it's just you can see he's fronting up. Fair play to him, but it's just not there.
He's committed. Well, he's staying to his contractual obligations at this point, I suppose. But he's not refusing to. It's more than we could say for likes of Patterson and likes of the past, whatever. Yeah, but he's playing when he's been asked to, but barely.
Yeah. But this goes back to January. We should have signed a keeper. When Bender was injured, we had to sign a keeper. You can't go into the second half of the season with just one professional goalkeeper. It's just reckless. And if we'd actually signed somebody, they could have taken his place, taken him out. It would have been, nobody would have batted an eyelid. But we signed that kid from Wolves who's never played a professional game in his life. He's no more ready for it than Lewis Webb is. So there's been no option in my eyes. The Fisher had to play, but it's killing him. It's killing us all.
His contract, Sondergaard, is up in the summer. It seems completely bonkers now if he's not going to, I mean, look, you bring him in. Why are you bringing him in? He's either going to challenge Fisher, and when you challenge someone, you're waiting for a mistake. Well, I don't know how many we're talking about here. We're in double figures now. If he's not getting a game now, he's never getting a game. Or an injury, in which case we could have just gone out and picked up a free agent who, in all accounts, might have well just been better than Fisher anyway, or at least not be so low in his confidence. So it does seem like that was a very odd signing if he's not going to play or even get a chance. But it was all down to January, Andy, and I think Fisher will not admit it publicly, and I think Martin certainly can't admit it because he has to back his man. He's got no option now. But I think everyone wants another goalkeeper. Even Fisher at this point probably wants another goalkeeper just to take the limelight off him. He wasn't getting back in that team if Bender didn't get injured. That was clear to everyone. And we spoke off air before we started recording. You both did about Bender. He wasn't, immune from a mistake himself, but for every mistake he made, he was keeping us in games 2 or 3 times, and you'd see the benefits of having him. It's not perfect. Of course, he's not perfect. He's playing for us, but he had plenty of positives. And at this point, I just feel sorry. I do. I feel sorry. I think he needs to come out of the firing line. It was horrible, Steve, from the utter jubilation of going 2-0 up so quickly to be sucker punched like that. I mean, it must have really knocked the stuffing out of the fans in the away end there.
But I was fuming because before the game, I felt to myself that the key to what would happen would be, would their useless attack, would they be able to score against our error-prone goalkeeper, and who's going to get the better of it? And obviously, if we didn't win, I think it's fairly obvious who would have been culpable. So, yeah, and it did. I think obviously we're on cloud 9, aren't we? At 2-0, thinking we're winning comfortably. We're probably going to do them again, and then it's arguably we're in a worse position than when we won the up at that point because they've scored and they've got that momentum, and their crowd was up a little bit. Then you could actually hear them at that point. Complete silence before, regardless of what a certain Ab and Donato was going to say for himself. They were crap again.
Evening, Paul. I know he's listening. Go on.
Definitely isn't. But in case anyone shows him, Paul, you did not score 2 great goals, as you said on Twitter. One was literally a howler from the goalkeeper, and your fans did not deserve more because they were crap. You only heard them realistically after the 2 goals. Again, just useless, as they are in every other game. Just as bad as the team. But, yeah. Sorry for that rant. Yeah, basically.
You're right, though.
The momentum, was with them a little bit then. And I just felt that we needed half-time at that point because, like I said, their tails were up. And as we know, the old cliche of goals change games. Philogene was giving us a bit of a, he was causing problems. So, yeah, luckily we managed to see that out, didn't we? But we did have that good chance. I mean, that probably hasn't been mentioned a lot since because, depending on sometimes get there. But Darlin could have had a shot from the halfway line. I don't know what it looked like for the rest of you, but it's gone to him. The goalkeeper's nowhere near, and we're all screaming at him. Just bloody shoot. If it goes behind for a goal kick, who cares?
I said that.
It's the dream.
I said that to my dad at the time when he was, because he was out wide, wasn't he, when he lost it? And I said, well, that was the keeper. The keeper just lost the ball there. He's not in goal. I thought, oh, Christ, he could have had a goal, mind.
Yeah,
I didn't. I don't think we had a shot in that pass to play, did we?
Honestly, there was nothing to lose. Just hit it. Maybe he didn't know that the keeper on there. I don't know. I'm being a bit generous, but just pull the trigger. Who cares?
Yeah. There was obviously chances. Darlin had the shot that rasped wide from 20 yards that just bent away from goal at the last second. That was an arrowing in otherwise. Cullen just couldn't sort his feet out before Allsop came out and challenged him. So that first half hour, 40 minutes, the only thing Cardiff did was that shot, Andy, that ended up inexplicably in the back of our net. But apart from that, we could have got a couple more. We dominated the ball. It just felt like up until the point of their goal, it was all Swans.
Oh, the game was won. We 2 up. We could have had more. We had so many good opportunities. Not necessarily all the shots, but as you say, we just a couple of things just didn't quite click. But if they had, we were in. Or we could have had more shots. So the game was over. It was done. As you say, Steve, the crowd is flat, and it was only going to get worse from that point because they knew they were on the back of another defeat in a row. They were going to get against the team. All we had to do was just see out that half. Maybe you can get another one with a bit of luck, but the one thing you can't do is concede because all that's going to happen there is going to get them behind them. It's going to give the players a bit of confidence. Players who, frankly, need confidence because I think they're still the lowest scorers in the division, aren't they? So they are not a good team. They do not have much of a threat. Yeah. So the last thing we need to do there was concede a goal. Just keep it tight for 5. Don't do anything stupid. And like you said, they hadn't really had a shot at that point, had they? So no real threat at all. mind you, not much threat after either, to be honest. But we handed them a lifeline. But we've done that so many times this season, haven't we? Sadly, but it's their Achilles heel.
It is, and I think the thing is, well, now today they're the worst goal scorers in the division, lowest goal scorers by 4, and that's after scoring 2 against us on the weekend. So I mean, it just shows how poor their attack is, and really, Steve, it had to be a gift from us for him to have a hope of coming back into the game. But the timing of it. What was the atmosphere like in the away end half time? Because I can imagine after that point, I guess things got a little bit more nervy. Obviously, you said the Cardiff fans started chanting a bit and getting behind their team, and then you had a little bit of nerves maybe come on the pitch and a little bit less control from us up until half time then. And then I was thinking, maybe we can get to half time now and just. Obviously, not thinking, of course, that we very rarely come out all guns blazing after half time. But at that point, I thought, let's just get in and see. But what was it like from the stands?
I think there was probably a little bit of a lull in the atmosphere. But to be fair, until that point, it had been amazing. So it can be hard sometimes to have non-stop chanting for the entire game, can't it? So there probably was a little bit of a lull, but it was still quite noisy to a point. So. Look, I mean, I think the game can ebb and flow a bit sometimes, can't it? And then depending on what's going on. So, there was a degree of probably nervousness, as as these games often have at times, and we've been lucky that we probably haven't been as nervous as you would be normally recently because our record against them has been so good. But I think people definitely just wanted half time to come, didn't they? And you could sense at half time really from the people that I talked to. Actually, Gito was sitting in front of me, or should I say standing in front of me by coincidence, and because he was as nervous as probably most of us were to a point. But look, it's one of those things, and like we did let them back in needlessly. The Swans don't often do things the easy way, do they? But I think a lot of us were certainly still felt that we had a great chance of winning. But you always knew that if the longer the game would go at 2-1, that it would get a bit nervy, and I did say at half time, for us to win, we may well need a third. Certainly, for me to feel confident that we would win, we were going to need a third. So, we'll come on to that, I'm sure.
Well, let's talk about it then, because from my point of view, I agree. I think 2-1 at half time, you're thinking the home side are up. There's still half the match to go, Andy, and obviously you may not share this opinion here. I was really hoping he'd stick with the 11 who are on the pitch, because I thought we need to come out and show our intent, show our teeth again, that we're not going to let this game, the momentum shift and then be able to push us back. So I was a little disappointed to see Fulton come on for Cundall at the start of the second half, and I thought, and of the 4 subs that we made, I thought 3 of them were a little bit negative and kind of invited it on. But what were your thoughts on that? I mean, that was just me. When I saw Fulton come on for Cundall, I thought, is that a signal of our intention here?
Yeah, I think that's been a bit of a question, hasn't it? It's certainly after Saturday, but maybe in a few other games as well. The Fulton for Cundall one didn't bother me so much. I think they were bringing on Sawyers, were they, at half time? And so I think that was a bit of a reaction. That was. I think the one I didn't get was Liam Cullen. I think Liam Cullen, is probably the one attacking player we have with a bit of pace, and he was giving them a bit of a chasing in the second half. And when I think it showed a bit of pace on the flank, which gave that crossover to Joe Pro. When he could have easily scored a third there. I think taking him off. And did we bring on Latibodia for him? I think. I think we did go to a 5, didn't we? I think that was the one for me. I think I wasn't happy with that one. So I think that was possibly Liam Cullen's best game for us in many ways in terms of overall play. I thought he was brilliant. But I think taking him off, bringing on an extra defender, changing shape. For me, that was the one I was like, and I'm not keen on this, because the one thing we're never going to be able to do is shut up shop for 30 minutes, which is just not in our DNA, as you say. And no. I'd rather us chase a third and defend conceding a second, because all it takes with us is one ball into the box or being out of shape, and we concede a goal. And it's not what I'd like us to do, to be honest with you. So
my logic there, Andy, was, if we were to carry on with that same attacking team and then Cardiff got a second, we've got the players on the pitch to wrestle it back. But if we bring those players off and put a defensive player on, and even though we've shown we can't defend, really, then what we saw happen later on in the game, which was my worst nightmare, is we've done it a couple of times before as well, where we've taken off attacking players, then conceded, and then you're looking on the pitch going, well, shit, how are we going to go and wrestle the momentum and the lead back again? And Steve, I think, well, the second half then felt like we were making these little bit negative, little bit like pulling it back and taking, well, let's go through the substitutions. Obviously, Fulton comes on for Kundal. Cooper and Cham wasn't a negative one, but and Cham had just picked up a yellow card, I believe, and maybe because he was showing a little bit legginess out there after, obviously, he was travelling. Probably that was a good decision. But then we had, as Andy mentioned there, we had the Allen for Walsh, Cullen for Latabodier, double substitution on 65th minute, and that then really set us up with, three in defensive mid, as opposed to the one we started the game with. We were really lacking in the final third then. What was that like in the stands? How was that received?
I couldn't really tell you about too many other people's reaction. I mean, I wouldn't say there was mass anger at it, but I wasn't happy at all with the subs. I still think they if we hadn't won, I would have been questioning them. And if we're being a little bit honest here, the Darlin injury, meaning that Patterson had to come on,
it was lucky, wasn't it?
That sort of worked out okay, because when I saw them, obviously we went to that back five, the three defensive midfielders, my first thought was, if we concede, we've only got Cooper and Perot really on here that are potentially going to score us a goal. And I mean, you look at the one big chance of the second half, then we're talking, aren't we, about the one where Perot has got in from, I think it was from the Cooper cross, wasn't it? And obviously he's managed to get it past the goalkeeper, but the touch was too heavy, so it's gone for a goal kick. I mean, we didn't have a huge amount of chances, certainly until Cardiff had equalised at that point. So I think we got that wrong. Like the wing back thing, there's too much of an obsession over it. I think you've really got to have the players to play it. And to be fair, I don't think Darlin playing there necessarily is like a bad thing. I mean, Latabodier, I don't want to go into it anymore. I'm done. But there was no need to change the shape, I don't think. And I mean, I sort of understand that Cullen wasn't going to play a full game. I mean, he rarely does. But like, he shouldn't be coming off for Latabodier. It just sends the wrong signals, doesn't it? And like Andy has said, I mean, we're not defending a lead for 30 minutes. It's not us. We've got to go for the juggler. Got to go and get another goal. So, yeah, that was a mistake. And, yeah, that could have cost us. But the fact that then Patterson had to come on, because it was either him or Whittaker, I think, that were on the bench when Darlin was got injured, sort of made us change it. And it didn't do us any harm, I don't think, because I think without that, I don't think Martin would have made a change bringing on Patterson or Whittaker for an attacking player, should we say, at that point. So, yeah, we probably lucked in then in terms of after they've equalised, we did have an extra attacking player on to maybe try and get a winner.
Yeah. Look, a little bit of backstory, and I had a ticket for the Cardiff game, and I inexplicably had to sell it to one of them. Oh, didn't? No, sorry, it was my ticket. I was there. Sorry, Swansea City. I did not hand that ticket on to anyone else. Nope. No, but I couldn't go because of a family event, which I was devastated I had to pull out of. But after that period, and we looked like we were just handing a little bit of control to Cardiff, and I thought, oh God, we really are looking like now we are trying to patch ourselves back up a little bit for that 20-minute period in the middle of the second half. And I thought, actually not too disappointed at this point that I'm not there, because my nerves were all over the shop just watching it from whatever European country I was definitely watching it from. God, I'm doing myself a whole... just whatever this part, right? Okay. But I did think at that point, I'm really nervous of how this game's turning out, and we'll come to the equaliser in a little bit, but it did feel like we just lost a little bit of control in that period of time.
Yeah, it didn't. My nerves expressed themselves, but I went to the fridge and got a beer. So one of the benefits of watching from home was that I could do that.
You're home in a European country as well, of course.
Oh yes, I love it.
You must have these great holiday homes and must invite me sometime.
You're welcome in The Hague anytime, mate. The thing is, I can't remember them having a chance, apart from the 2 goals they scored. So it was one of those where you were kind of just waiting for something to happen. We weren't creating much, they weren't creating much. It was kind of just drifting along, but it's just an existential dread, isn't it? You know something's coming.
It's the nerves that they don't necessarily need to create a decent chance.
Yeah, no, exactly. They just have to get the ball in the box, and we've shown that's been a bit of a weakness for us. We know Fisher's a bit of a line keeper, which that's not a slight on him at all. Some of our best keepers are good. Tremel, he wouldn't come off his line for love nor money, but that's just his style. That's fine. But we defensively we do lack a bit in that regard sometimes, and sometimes we they lose one-on-one battles, or a bit of movement gets us. So I think we do struggle as a team, not just individually defensively, and it's never what I want us to do. So I mean, I was nervous up until that. Although as I say, there wasn't really the chance that, or we weren't getting battered at all. There wasn't really that much of a threat. But you just know they're going to get a chance. Even the worst teams, and they are probably one of the worst teams in the division, so there'll be a chance. They were chucking bodies forward. They were bringing on, I think they brought on Ruben Caldwell. I know he hasn't played much for them for some reason, probably because he's a decent footballer. But it's I don't know what it is. But it's they brought him on. You always thought they'd create something. Something was going to happen. So, and you want us to take it out of their hands, don't you? By just leaving something on the pitch, leaving a few options there, and because I think we only had one substitution option left, didn't we? At the end when Darwin went off, so we used 2 options quite early. So it was nervy, and we probably contributed a little bit to it. I think there's probably some lessons learned in terms of our substitutions all season, to be honest. But it was we were contributing a little bit to it. But I was. But
they were really poor, Cardiff, weren't they? I mean, they were. They didn't really put us under much, did they? Even though we were like kind of inviting it, they were shocking. I thought they didn't really grasp it by the horns at all.
No, absolutely, but that's what they are. They're not a very good team. They don't score many goals, and we were comfortable without doing anything, but you just knew something was coming. But no, it's you do wish we'd given it a bit more of a go before they scored, because we showed after they did. We still created a few chances there, so we still had enough in us. But maybe there's a lack of confidence there. We haven't won many games recently, have we? So I know we won against Bristol, which was really well timed. But maybe a lot of it is, some of it is confidence as well. The players naturally going a bit into their shell, as well as the decisions kind of forcing them into their shell as well. I don't know. But mind you, if the game had finished 2-1, we would have said, "Oh well, good game management for the manager, good game management for the players." Nothing to see here. But then that's not what happened, is it?
But under the previous manager, of course, Steve Cooper would have seen that game out, because that was his style. It was very much, we weren't going to concede, and we'd have the players to run the channels and just frustrate and shithouse our way through. But that's not certainly something we haven't managed to do under Russell Martin, is it? But we have to go and be more proactive, maybe, going forward. But that said, and I will talk now briefly about the equaliser, Steve, because we have to talk about it. But I don't want to dwell, because I feel like the last 15 minutes of this, I've been bringing the mood down a little bit on negativity, and I want to bring it back up, because they got the equaliser. Again, I think that Bender makes a better stab at it than Fisher. I think there was another mistake along the back line, but he doesn't make himself big. He doesn't make, in that instance, right, if you're not going to challenge the header 6 yards out, then you make yourself as big as possible, arms out, body in the air, make sure he doesn't hit you, because you can make yourself a fairly big target in the goal. He kind of made himself smaller, Fisher, and he didn't. Again, the header was straight towards him, and it went past him in the back, and it was just one of those where I thought could have got more to it. And I imagine at that point for you guys, you were thinking, fuck, we've just taken off our attacking players here, and they've got an equaliser. There's 7 minutes on the clock. Fuck.
Yeah, something like that. My thoughts on Fisher, and like when the ball has gone behind, and then obviously the cross has come in, he just looked uncertain. Like he moved one way, then the other, and you just know there's no confidence there. And I was thinking as it came in, please tell me someone's going to win that header, because if they do, we're in huge trouble. And obviously then, like you say, I mean, I don't think he can be necessarily blamed for that goal, but I do think another goalkeeper may have saved it. I think that's the problem. Whereas obviously, look at the first.
Or at least giving himself more of a chance, you know.
Yeah, Look, I'm on the same page as you. I think that, and yeah, look, they've equalised. It feels like a loss, doesn't it, at that point, because we've led for more or less the entire game. There was a point where we were 2-0 up and they were on the ropes, and you just feel like, we've chucked this away, and they were delighted, weren't they? Because they're obviously sick of losing to us, and they feel like after being 2 down, they've got out of jail. And you just think, well, again, we've really contributed to our own downfall here, because as you've said, they did not create much at all. But it's the running theme of teams don't have to create much against us to score, and we really, really have to sort that out, because it is just ridiculous. It's holding us back so much. But at that point, you are quite worried we're going to lose, aren't you? And you're thinking, if we lose this, I mean, it'll be one of the worst derby losses we've ever had, probably, having been in such a commanding position. But to be fair, I mean, it probably says a bit for Cardiff as well. I mean, I can't remember them having a chance after that, which is amazing, because you'd think all the momentum is surely with them at that point, and they're, if there's going to be a winner, it should be them. But fair to us, we responded so well. I mean, Grimes had that shot, didn't he? And that really could have gone in, and we did then sort of change it. We were going for them a little bit more, trying to get a win, and you're thinking, this really isn't we should have been doing this in the first place. I'm not saying we should have been going hell for leather at them, but we should have been thinking, if we can get in and get another goal, then that's the best way to try and win the game. But I suppose in spite of all this, we probably wouldn't change anything, would we, given what eventually happened? It's just that really we should have made it easier for ourselves.
That reaction to them clawing an equaliser back, and obviously the home crowd getting lifted and thinking and cheering shirts off like they'd won the game. Andy, it did feel like a real gut punch, didn't it? But the Swans' reaction, as Steve just outlined there, was, I didn't expect it. I did say just now about having the attacking players come off, and us already showing that we were prepared to retreat a little bit and give up a little bit of the possession and control. I thought, well, Christ, how are we going to wrestle this back now? But we did, and we suddenly imposed ourselves in the game again. Of course, at the time, I'd have rather us do that at 2-1 and then go and get a third rather than wait it to go to 2-2. But the reaction, I was really impressed with, and that you can tell, I think that, to me, says about how much that our players know that it means more and it matters more. And it wasn't a case of settling for a draw. It was a case of leaving it all out there. And that they did. And they really give it a go for the last, what turned out to be 15 minutes or so. There was only 7 on the clock, but we know what happens after that. But really, the control that we wrestled back at that point, I thought, wow, I didn't expect to see it.
I wish you hadn't reminded me about those shirts off lot, to be honest with you, because that's
scarred on my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. God, there's some lookers in their crowd, aren't there? I mean, I think, because that Grimes shot happened within about 90 seconds, didn't it, of their goal, and you do wonder whether that just sort of killed their momentum stone dead, and maybe killed their crowd as well, because any sort of positive feelings they thought were just maybe put an edge at that moment. I don't know, but no, you're right. I think there was only one team likely to score after they equalised, and it wasn't them. And that, after coming back from 2 down, that's unusual, isn't it? But maybe, I think maybe we did have a bit more attacking players than we thought we did, or a bit more quality than we thought we had on the pitch. Maybe they just aren't very good. I think maybe it's a bit of both. But no, I think there was only one team looking to win, and that was us. And yeah, I mean, we had that chance from Grimes. We had a few options around the box, and I think there was still hope. I mean, I don't think it would go as late as it did, but no, it was it was. Yeah, no, it was only one team trying to win that, and that was definitely us. And it's a shame that Grimes shot didn't go in, because that would have been an absolute booty, and that would have been a very fitting way to win a derby as well. But and I think I thought Grimes played well, especially in that first half. But yeah, no, it's no, it's a testament to the players and everyone really that we came back from that. It's a shame we didn't show a bit more of that earlier, but I think some of it's psychological, isn't it? And I think they were trying to defend the lead, they couldn't, but they fair play. They came out, tried to chase the winner, and I guess that's what happened, wasn't it? So yeah.
Well, that grind shot was the second time that we'd hit the post in the game, or crossbar, or the woodwork, should I say, without the ball going in directly from it. Surely, Steve, it wouldn't happen a third time. Just to build you up before I pass it over to you. What was it? 5 minutes put up, and then we lose the ball in their penalty area, and Perot tugs back his man and gets a yellow card, but he spends about 25 minutes down with cramp, and you're just thinking, they're playing this out now. They've seen we've got the control back, we've got the momentum, we want to win this game, and they're just trying to see the game out 2-2 draw. They're happy they've stopped the Doube, and they've wrestled back from 2-0 down. I can understand from their point of view why at that point they think, right, okay, we'll take a draw, we'll get out of here with our tail between our legs. So the game obviously went past 95. But what was the follow? And I'll say no more. But what was the follow is something that I'll never forget, and which you definitely will never forget.
Yeah, I think I remember. Obviously, we got the free kick, and I do remember saying that. It's quite funny. I was in Croatia the other week. We got that throw, and I did say to the boys, because I'm sure if you watched it, the Wales away chanter. I know that you're not a big fan.
Not a fan of. No.
That was going for a good 20 minutes, which is nuts, really. But I did actually say at that point, God, imagine we score here, and obviously the long throw goes in, the flick on, and Broadhead does score, and it is wild. Probably the wildest celebration I've seen in a long time, until what just happened on Saturday. But so I've said it again. I was like, God, imagine we score here, and I did say at that point. I said it last week, so I've got to say it again. Then I think I did also say but it won't be direct from the free kick. It'll have to be a rebound or something. I don't know where.
Bloody hell, Steve! I hope you did a lottery on Saturday night.
I don't know where the crystal ball has come from somewhere, but obviously it was so close, obviously, wasn't it? And you're thinking it's going to be very hard to dip one year over the wall. Patterson obviously. Fulton it was that hit this, sorry, wasn't it? He hit the wall. He's hit it again. He's smashed the post, and it's all a blur from there. Really. I mean, until I've seen it back, I didn't realise there was like another touch from somebody. And I had flat abode, yeah. I genuinely had no idea who the ball was. The next thing you know, it's gone into the back of the net, and I've never seen scenes like it in my entire life. It's absolute carnage. The only reason that there's not unbelievable injuries and mass injuries is because Cardiff have now put rail seats in. Without that, literally, there are people going arse over tit, God knows where, off the scale. And I just remember, I think everyone's pretty much hugging each other. People are on the floor. And I remember looking up and thinking, the entire bench are in front of us. They've all ran over from the dugout. They've all absolutely lost the plot along with them. And obviously, it wasn't until I saw the highlights back that obviously Fisher is involved in the pylon. And unbelievable. No feeling like it. And I can imagine those of you that watched it from abroad. There were probably a few pylons there. There were probably a few neighbours thinking, "Christ, is everything all right next door? What the hell's going on?" and all this type of thing. Joyous. But like I said, for me in the ground, it's got to be the best experience I've ever had in football. That, along with probably the moments until we left the ground, and probably for everybody else who was watching as well, like the emotion of last minute winners. They are just incredible. Every club has them from time to time. I remember we had that one in Leeds 3 or 4 years ago. I mean that was incredible. A few of the glory ones in the Prem, like when we went to the Emirates and Michu scored 2 at the end, but that was just another level. I mean, the 4-0 last year was amazing, but a last minute at Cardiff after we think we've blown it, and they're relieved as they can be that they're going to avoid the Doube, and obviously their position in the table as well. For that to happen is just absolutely staggering. No moment like it. I mean, the video, every time the video comes onto Twitter of that winning goal. Like, I can't scroll past it without watching it. Go on to any of the comments, people from other clubs saying that it's like the greatest thing ever. It was. Like, you can't look at it as any other way.
There's fans all over the country, Premier League fans down to League 2 and below, all watched and commented on that, Steve, as you know, and said they've labelled it Limbs of the Year already. It's been decided. They've not seen anything like that in many years, and I can only suggest that at that point, no matter how raucous it was in my holiday home in Holland, I was there with them. At that point, I thought, holy fuck, why am I not there? And I just thought, oh my God, that looks unbelievable, Steve.
Well, yeah, like you say, unfortunately, you weren't there, and you're going to have to take that one to the grave, aren't you?
Yeah.
I can't really dress it up any other way. I can't say anything to make it any better because, for those that were there, no one will ever forget that. It was, it's the stuff dreams are made of. It, the last minute winner. Honestly, the only thing I think that could be better is the Aguero moment. Like, as a one-off thing. Like I said, winning in Valencia, stuff like that. They're all amazing things, but I think the actual high of that moment nothing can come close to it. There's the Pratley against Forest when the James Lawrence against Look, they're all amazing moments. We've had probably more of them than most other clubs, I would say. But I don't know, the sheer emotion of that one was, I can't remember ever experiencing anything like it. And I dread to think that I think my voice went a pitch that I didn't know was possible when it went in, should we say.
Oh my God. The thing, Andy, the thing is, it's so relatable, isn't it? Because whether you're watching that as a Newcastle fan and just picturing yourself and your club doing it against Sunderland, it's relatable to fans all over the country. Just imagining scoring a 99th minute winner against your arch rivals. You just can relate and see the reaction, thinking, yeah, I can understand why they're like that.
I was just so jealous, frankly. So I wish it was there. But no, I mean, scoring a 99th minute winner at any time against anyone is special, isn't it? But to do it against your nearest and dearest at their own ground, in front of their own fans, in a game that's probably put them nearer relegation as well, with fingers crossed. Then and do the Doube as well. It's just, it takes some beating, absolutely. Now, as I'm of a certain age, I think, and Steve was mentioning he was at this one as well, when Matt Bowen did it in 94, in 94th minute rather, in the late 90s. That was pretty special as well. But this one probably does top that one, doesn't it? But it's special, and I think I was carrying the injuries after that boned one for a while, but we've had some special moments in these sorts of games as well, but I think that this probably is the top one, isn't it? It's just I'm just jealous and that I was there. I wasn't there, but fair play, Steve. I'm glad you enjoyed and you brought some colour to it in terms of actually being there. So
to be honest with you as well, Steve, Sky can stay away because they've decided not to show the last two at the Cardiff City Stadium. And I'll be honest with you, best two I can remember in recent history, to go up there and do the Doube and then go up there and...
don't forget as well, because they haven't showed it, it's meant that we haven't had to get down the stadium at stupid o'clock, which is, is probably the main thing of it, because there's nothing worse, is there? Being down there about 7:30.
Yeah.
But it's a bit odd, though, isn't it, that Bristol City down here was moved on police advice, but the Cardiff one wasn't. It's just
I find that unbelievably baffling. Makes no sense.
It's really odd, but I mean, I didn't particularly like it last year nor this year. The fact that for our home game against them, obviously, we had to get to the stadium earlier, meant less pre-match drinking time and stuff like that, whereas their fans could sit in pubs all morning, get drunk, get excited for the game and stuff, and then walk to the stadium at 2:30. I didn't like that our fans weren't given the same luxury and the reverse fixture, and you had to be, kettled into the stadium over a 2-hour bus journey, and it thought it's not fair that they are allowed to. But I mean, if it results in the wins that we're getting, Steve, I just don't know what to say. I mean, the club, the players, the fans, this city knows what that game means, and they just never get it anymore, do they?
Doesn't seem like it. I mean, I think what sort of sums it up though is like the media team, especially. I mean, they always just seem to hit the right note, don't they? I mean, like I said, I was genuinely concerned this time. I wasn't feeling hugely confident. Then about 7 o'clock on Friday, good old Dave coaches is enough about the great experience, and you've got Ollie Cooper talking about his goal. You've got Dyer and Pratley giving their memories. And next thing, like, get me up there now. Let's go for it. Let's have them again. And I watched the Cardiff one. It was crap. It was terrible. And I'm not just saying that because it's them, but it was just, it didn't show any highlights of previous Derby games. Now, I know obviously they'd have to go quite a long way back because of their abysmal record in the fixture. It felt like they didn't get it. And it's like, they never do seem to get it. And I mean, I haven't watched it yet, but I mean, I was talking about the alternative route because that's actually gone up as we recorded. But I've had WhatsApp messages, and, that again, it just seems like they all get it. And, the scenes at the end where we're all celebrating, I mean, obviously you wouldn't have seen all of that, but I mean, Manning just running down the touchline, gloated. Edwards runs straight over to the away end. I mean, O'Leary went nuts. Like, he was in the railway after the game, and I went up to him and said, "You completely lost it, didn't you?" And he said, I'm never usually like that because I just couldn't help it. Like, that's what the whole thing did. And then everybody was just acting up, really, wasn't it? Because of the whole emotion of winning the game like that. And that's what you want to see, really, that like bond between the players, the management, and the fans. And it really did feel like we had that. I mean, we've got to be honest. I mean, since the home win against Cardiff in October, we haven't really had a lot to shout about. It's been quite frustrating at times. I mean, we haven't had many wins. Obviously, the off-field stuff has been incredibly frustrating and draining. We've had a lot of midweek games where the atmosphere has not been great, and the crowds have not been great. And you just feel like this game is the one that can just give everybody a lift. And I mean, what I love is it just brings all of us together, because like, I was in the pub before the game, and none of that off-field stuff seemed to matter. I mean, everyone was there just thinking, right, today now we just need to win this game. And I mean, like, you're in the ground and everyone's just so up for it. The atmosphere is amazing. Everyone's joining in with the chanting. And only this fixture really can get us together like that. So it is really special in that sense. But obviously it's the gift that keeps on giving in terms of results as well at the moment. And yeah, just really special. It's going to have to go a long way to top this one.
It was, as you say, there's been a divide in the fan base for much of the season, whether it be Martin in, Martin out, whether it be the owners' lack of activity and whatnot, and takeover talk. Sorry, Andy, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but not just yet. But this, where you get everyone together, where you got the likes of Trundle as club ambassador, Andy Robinson doing local radio commentary and stuff, or national radio commentary, I should say. Tudor Jones, of course, also doing that. Chris O'Leary and the coaching staff. When you've got the people who have been there, have done it, and the local characters as well. I mean, talk about all the legends that have come and gone at the club and been there and done it. There is just a different feel on days like Saturday where everything else goes out the window. And one point, I did actually, a lot of the players came out, no doubt, to enjoy the celebrations on Saturday night. And I didn't know this at the time until he told me. I was chatting to Mike Eames, the kit man, and he told me that he'd given the team talk, which is, I believe, now available online. So definitely, I haven't actually checked it out yet, but I have seen someone posted about it, so I'm definitely going to watch it as soon as we finish recording. But that's the difference, isn't it? Isn't that not the difference between clubs like ours and clubs like Cardiff over the past so many years, where you just think even though they label us have this chip on the shoulder mentality or whatever, it's about knowing what it means to the fans. And Cardiff always felt to me since, go way back until, if you go back to, I can't even recall, because even Dave Jones played them down as any other game, and that was their best team for me in the last 15 years or so. So to see that play out, or 20 years or so, but to see that play out in the way it has on Saturday with those people at the club, and that's what I think the difference is, Andy. We have those people around and in the club who know what it means.
Yeah, things are pretty rotten down there, aren't they? This is still a very special club in that regard, I think, and fair play to the people on the ground here that are involved in the day-to-day running, especially on the social media side. They do some absolutely stellar work. But as you say, it's about keeping a lot of the ex-players involved as well, making Lee Trundle an ambassador, Leon Britton does a lot of stuff there as well. Andy Robertson's always around, Wyndham Evans, love him or loathe him, but his passion is infectious. I think he's obviously the best commentator we could have had on Saturday, absolutely. But yeah, I think a lot of former players do stay around. I see Nathan Dyer dropping his kids off in school, not far from where I live, so you see him round about quite often. So a lot of ex-players stay around here, and that says a lot about the area. So I used to live in London. I'm originally from Exciting, but I went to London and I came back. So I see it as well. I missed this place. I'm in Rotten when I wasn't living here. So a lot of people stick around. Is that because they love their time here. And that's because of the welcome they have, the attachment they feel to the area. So that is something special. And yeah, you don't feel that really happens with Cardiff. And certainly there's a bit of an arrogance, isn't there, with their view of this fixture, with their view of where they are as a club. I think they genuinely have drunk the Kool-Aid a little bit and think they're bigger than they are. I to be honest, in terms of size of the city, in terms of population, there's not an awful lot of difference, but in terms of the clubs, there isn't either. And to be honest, if you look at the history of the last 30-40 years, we've been the bigger club. We've certainly been the more successful club, and there's no real argument about that, really. But they genuinely think, I think in some cases, and they're fed by the media. Hello, Paul. That they are bigger than this. They're bigger than Barcelona. That really fed into it, didn't it? They think that they should be in the top flight, and not just in the top flight, but towards the top of it. And they haven't been there for about 70, 80 years, and they're never going to be there. That's just not the reality of it. Bristol is twice the size Cardiff is. And they haven't been in the top flight in my memory. No. So, I think that there's a certain arrogance there, which it's not based in reality. And this fixture for a while, the whole jibe that Bristol City were their real rivals, which is obviously nonsense. But they like to stick up there, don't they? And they say, well, we got bigger fish than this. They haven't. For some time, we've been something for them to chase, and they've not really managed it. And whereas we're not delusional about that. I think this game is still the one that matters more than anything. Even this season, I've been quite down and negative about things at times. But for this game, that's all just kicked out the window, isn't it? For the entire day, for the entire week, really around it. We just focused on one thing, is put one over them. And I absolutely loved that, and I went as mental as anyone in the Netherlands when that Cabango goal went in. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. Yeah,
Cardiff born as well. It's the fact that he scored such a crucial goal in the game at the Cardiff City Stadium last year as well. It just what must have been running through his head. Well, you saw his attempted celebrations. In fact, Steve, the players, and you wouldn't have seen this sometime, of course, because you were busy being upside down, but the players just did not know what to do. Hardly anyone went to Cabango. They just darted towards the corner flag and jumping up and down, delirious and running over. It just looked and then you could see on the feed as well, players with their Swans jackets on, clearly subs, running across the pitch as well. It was like it was a golden goal, which obviously turns out it felt like it was, but just the sheer bedlam of the moment. It's excellent. I watched it. I gotta say, it might be in four figures now, Steve. It might well be over 1,000 times. Every time it pops up, I have to watch it again.
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm the same as you, but that's the thing. But when you're in the moment and you're in the ground, as everybody well, as 2,000 of us were, then yeah, I think most of us have not a huge amount of recollection about exactly what happened after the ball had hit the net, because we've all just gone so mad. I mean, I'm waiting for this fan cam to come out, because you never know, there's a chance it could be on it. So yeah, I mean that might jog up one or two memories. But yeah, I mean, like I said to you, I've looked up after we've calmed down ever so slightly, and I have seen that everyone's in front of me. So literally, when I have to watch the replay of the celebration, that basically tells me exactly what happened. But like, it was just one of those complete loss of control moments for everybody, really, wasn't it? I don't think anybody knows what they're doing, but one thing I'm fairly sure of, I mean, I'd love to interview some of them in the fanzine at some point in the next few years, and there's no doubt everybody that played in that game is going to get asked about it. And yeah, I'm sure that regardless of what anyone goes on to achieve in their careers, surely for nearly all of them, they'll look back on that as like one of the greatest things that they've ever been involved in, because you couldn't, like, all Derby wins are special, aren't they? But that was just something else. I mean, the feelings and the emotion that it brought out in all of us, I mean, was just something that you really just don't get very often. So yeah, I mean, look, I think it's one of those, if you didn't absolutely love that, then maybe football isn't for you. So yeah, it really was special.
Yeah, and do you know what? And I mentioned it at the top of the podcast, Andy. Last year was quite something, to embarrass them, humiliate them on their own turf, but they'd all left by full time by the time the celebration had taken place, and it was a foregone conclusion after Cabango's second went in, because such was the domination at the start of the second half. You just thought, then this is it, this is done. This, I feel like, despite losing 4-0 to your arch rivals last year at home, this hurt them more. And their fans, I've seen so many tweets of fans just, even today, saying, I'm still not over Saturday. I don't think I'll get over it for a long, long time, because of the utter heartbreak of doing what every football fan, well, having done to them, rather, what every football fan hopes that they get to experience themselves once, at least once.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? It's I mean, I'm like you. I've been doom scrolling on social media, watching all these videos, etc. But I think that the one that's tickled me the most was their commentary of the game, and the Cardiff commentator just going in. Oh, to hell with this fixture, because it's just we are kryptonite to them, aren't we? But they just can't beat us. And it must be soul destroying. And yeah, I mean, I would imagine losing in the 99th minute worse than getting smashed 4-0. But both pleasurable in their own ways, obviously, for us. But yeah, it must be a real kick in the nads, isn't it? And no, I mean, it'd be interesting to see what happens with them now. They've only got 7 games left. This could really do some damage for them as well, because their confidence will be rock bottom now, and also their fans will be at them as well. So that's not a great mix. So I think do they still have to play Huddersfield as well? I think before the end of the season.
Yeah, I think one of the last games, but they've got Blackpool this weekend, obviously, haven't they? So
yeah,
again, it's just, and obviously they've the replayed game at Rotherham. So we can enjoy that one even more now, can't we?
Oh yeah, no pressure, Cardiff, no pressure. So
it's amazing.
And if they stay up, we do the triple double, no problem. So.
I don't know what it's called. I don't even know what it's
called.
Dupe. Tripe Dupe. There we are.
Sex Dupe.
Trademark that, Jackcast.
I think we need to mention as well the Cardiff City excuses bingo. Of it matters more to us, obviously, that's one of them. They once beat Real Madrid, of course. They once won the FA Cup. The swim away doesn't annoy them. I can't remember what else. Oh, I mentioned flags. That's another classic. I can't remember what else was on there, but that did make me laugh, I must admit. And let's be honest, a certain Mr. Avendonato has used a lot of those and will continue to use a lot of those, because he is completely and utterly delusional.
That's what I loved. That's what I loved about this, because we've had that every other time we've beaten them, haven't we? About all these excuses. The bingo card comes out and you dab them all off before the evening's out. But this one I've seen so little of, because all I see from them is almost an acknowledgement. You know, that Steve, I think we broke them. I think Cardiff City is now completely broke. I think they've just dissipated, and they just meekly surrendered now, and just thought, well, fuck this, because this would kill me as a fan, and I think it might have killed a lot of them, and they've just given up now. There was no meek excuses from what I saw and what I've been seeing. I'm done. I'm done. I just don't want
I think
as Andy said, to help with this fixture.
I do think we've silenced them for longer than normal, but I'm as certain as a man can be that the next time this fixture gets played, whether it is next season or there is now a little bit of a gap, that they will still be full of it, because I don't think they're capable of toning it down. I honestly don't. I think if it was us and we'd have lost 3 in a row, especially like the fact that it was 1 goal in the last 8 derbies, I think we'd all be like really concerned about this fixture and just a little bit to hell with it, like the commentator said. But it doesn't seem to be like that for them. They're almost a bit like, yeah, don't worry, we'll beat you this time and all this type of thing. And obviously now this has happened, but like I don't think they're capable of changing it. But I also do think that obviously, even though this thing of Bristol City are their main rivals, if the next time they do beat us, I think they'll reel out a replica of the Champions League and the World Cup to celebrate. And obviously, Paul Aberndonato will do a special pull-out in the Western Vale for one of the greatest events in the history of Welsh sport.
Sort of special pull-out. Sorry, that took it down a level. Sorry, carry on. What were you saying?
There'll be a pull-out. So
yeah,
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before, Steve, haven't we? The fact that the way they address it is very much what we look at when England are approaching a major tournament as well. You build it up, you talk it all up, and then you come crashing down because the expectation is set unreasonably high. And for us, we approach it with a humility and a modesty and a kind of let's all band together and stay as a unit, whereas they come in with an arrogance, isn't it? And we've likened it to the English media before, haven't we?
Yeah, but what I find so funny about it is that if you said it to them that they are the same thing, they'd probably be like, nah, we're not like that at all. It's like, well, you are, because the problem is the Welsh media, you've got nobody else telling them that they're wrong. And basically in the English media, they probably just think Cardiff need irrelevance. So they're not going to tell them that they're wrong. But yeah, obviously they just preach the garbage about how they're some giant and they're so hard done by, and now it's a matter of time until, normal order is restored and they become this great club established in the Premier League. But it's not going to happen. So yeah, hopefully they never cotton on to the fact that what they're really like, because I think if they did, they could actually be reasonably successful, but because they're always on about trying to run before they can walk, it goes spectacularly wrong. And obviously they physically are incapable of not talking. Like I remember, for example, they were talking before, weren't they, about when I think just before they got relegated out the Prem and the Warnock, and there was an article in Wales Online about how they could potentially be in Newcastle and be getting 50,000 every week. And I'm thinking to myself, I've got no idea. Newcastle, I think, has a smaller population than Cardiff. Like I've been several times, Matt, you've been as well. It is a giant in terms of football. There's nothing like it there. Like on the percentage of people that go to games there is off the scale. Like yeah. It's very unique. Cardiff have got no hope of being anything like that.
But Cardiff aren't heavily supported from the city either. It's a very dense kind of multicultural student as well town, and most of their support comes from the valleys. So to liken it to Newcastle anyway is ridiculous because it's a completely different scenario.
Yeah, it really is. But that's just an example of what they're like, isn't it? They preach this complete garbage. And it doesn't do them any favours. And I think what happened with that was that nonsense article came out. And I think then they lost a team that was already relegated in like a game they really had to win if they were going to stay up. Obviously, down they come. And, since then it's been largely disastrous, isn't it? Apart from that 1 year they had in the playoffs. But, yeah, look, they're never, ever going to learn. And I hope they don't because, they are comedy gold.
They are comedy gold, but let's stop talking about them and let's talk about post-match and what it was like in the stadium. You were obviously kept in for a little while the locals ambled home. what was it like in that stand? I mean, you only had about 30 seconds left of football to play. Once that final whistle goes, Steve, you're still bouncing, no doubt, from Cabango's goal. And then the ref puts his whistle to his lips. Keith Stroud, I haven't mentioned him yet in this podcast. How the hell I've gone through an hour and 20-minute podcast without mentioning that man's name, I don't know. But I managed to do it. What was it like? I just... That moment, the final whistle must have been the icing, the cherry on top of the icing, whatever, everything.
Yeah, like I say, all the players ran over to us, and it must have been a good 10 minutes that everybody was there. I mean, you lose track of time because you're so in the moment, aren't you? But I said what was quite funny was after, obviously we've milked it massively, and the players have got in. The Cardiff sound system just turned up the music blasting, just to try and drown us out. Obviously, but then they put on Coldplay Fix You. Everyone was singing that. Then everyone was singing With or Without You by U2, which was the next one they put on. So it was just quite funny, really. But yeah, we must have been in there for ages, because remember last year, I think the bus didn't leave the ground until about 5:30, and this time it was about 10 to 6. So that shows you how long we were in there, really milking the celebrations. And look, you've got to enjoy it. I mean, these are the moments that you all live for. You don't get many of them as a fan, where you're just celebrating all together, for ages. Yeah, you've just got to enjoy these moments. They don't come around very often, and we milked it, and that's what you've got to do. And like I said, everyone who was there will never ever forget that day. It was just perfection.
And it just. I'm not going to add anything to it, because that's a good way to end it. I think it's absolutely just unbelievable. And I'm just, obviously at 99th minute, my world came crashing down, and I thought I need to be there. but at the same time, turned a few tables over and spilled a few drinks in the process. But there we are. We move on. Look, I could talk about the game for another 3 hours, and I would love to. We need to move ever so slightly, change tack. And because you're on the podcast, Andy, it'd be remiss of me not to mention the talk of a takeover, which has been going on, rumbling in the background for months, whether it be investment, major or minor, whether it be a whole takeover, whether it be an investment with talk of a later takeover. I mean, you're no longer chairman of the trust, but of course you kind of got feelers and around the club, and you were friends and stuff. I'm going to poke you and prod you a little bit. What is your take on all this?
I don't have friends from the club anymore. Right. I don't think. No, I know nothing. But I think there are some very interesting things going on, aren't there? So a couple of weeks ago there was an announcement by the club. Which is the first time I'm aware the club's ever announced it, saying that Jake Silverstein, Jason Levy, and Steve Kaplan had converted some more loans into shares, which that the club having less debt is a positive thing. But also interestingly, that Jake Silverstein's shares had been moved into Swansea LLC, which some people may remember is the American company that bought the club. So that's a really interesting thing, because it basically means that Swansea LLC, I think, now holds around 80% of the shares in the club, but basically is effectively, owns the club, but effectively owns most of the shares of the club as well. And Jake Silverstein is now part of it. So all the Americans are now part of this one organisation. The trust are kind of on their own. Hugh Jenkins and Martin Morgan still have about 3% each, I think it is. But those are on their own as well. So both those actions in terms of sort of capitalising the debt and also sort of shoring up their own position, it does kind of scream something's happening. And be that, as you say, be that a straight takeover, be it more investment, be it a sort of investment in the short term with a option to buy in the future, which seems to be the one doing the rounds at the moment. Something's afoot. It's got to be. And what that is and what that means very much depends on your view and what it is. I think what the reality is of the offer or the deal or whatever. But something's happening. And to be honest, I think maybe a change is necessary. Think things aren't particularly great in terms of the ownership and how and the relationship with the people on the ground. So the rumours go anyway. It hasn't gone well, obviously, under this ownership since they come in. So change might be a good thing. It's not to say it will be a good thing. There are an awful lot of wrong uns out there. We can see other clubs there getting themselves into real problems. But who knows? But something's afoot, and I just hope it's a positive thing. And I hope whoever does have visibility of it and has our interest is making sure that it's a good thing and not just a thing that's for somebody else's benefit.
Yeah. To try and put this in layman's terms, because there'll be loads listening, including myself, to be honest with you. I'm going to take a guess, and you can tell me what's right or wrong about this statement. So the troublesome thing with Swansea LLC is if Levy and Kaplan and Silverstein own the right sort of shares rather to the club in their name, there are certain protections on sales of shares and stuff that go to other shareholders and things about which you can elaborate on, drag along and tag along, etc. on sales of shares and things like that when an ownership buyout happens. Now, them being encompassed in Swansea LLC and their shares being in there, well, the actual shareholder is Swansea LLC, is it not? So if they just change the ownership, then the actual shareholder of Swansea City, that's 80% shareholder, remains at Swansea LLC. So all the other little shareholders there's not been a change in Company's House there in terms of who owns that 80%. It is still that company based in Delaware. Tell me all that's wrong. Tell me a bit of it's right. I'm really not clued up on it. But that is my take on the current issue of the Swansea LLC, and Silverstein moving in there only can mean one thing to me, which is Swansea LLC is going to be owned or run by someone else in the near future.
I think that's possibly quite likely. So as you say, when a holding company owns something else, then if there's a change of ownership of that holding company, then there's effective change of control of the other bit. So the thing that always concerned us before the deal was done between the trust and the Americans was that what happened, if we look back to 2016, the trust were cut out of that deal. And, whether the trust would have taken part in it or not, that would have been a decision for the members at the time. But, we should have had the right to be able to participate, sell some of the shares, sell all the shares or whatever. So that was always a concern afterwards, that the trust could be cut out again. And a big part of that concern was also, what happens if the Americans just sell Swansea LLC? Because they own that lock, stock and barrel. We don't know who owns it today. We don't know if part of it's already been sold today. We don't know. And we'll never know, because it's filed in Delaware, which is the companies are filed in Delaware for one reason. They don't want people to know what's going on with them. So, it is a concern that any future sale could effectively be a sale of the holding company, Swansea LLC, or not quite the holding company, but the majority owners, and then all the other shareholders, such as the trust, could be cut out. Now, the trusts are on the record as saying there are protections within their shareholders' agreements that protect against that eventuality. I don't know if that's true. No, nobody outside the trust board knows if that is true, because that is one of the things that's been talked about as an NDA. So they won't talk about that publicly or in terms of the details. So we don't know. We do know that at Company's House, the Articles of Association, which are the rules that govern how a business is structured and the rights the shareholders have, it does say that the trust has tag-along rights, so that if the club is sold, then the trust can sell its Class B shares, which is around 9 or 10% of the club. So it has the right to sell those. But as you say, if Swansea LLC is sold, what rights do the other shareholders of the trust have? And that isn't an immediately obvious answer, I'm afraid.
So that is
talking about bringing me down to earth, but there we go.
No, it's good. I'm glad in a way that my bag packet knowledge of this whole setup, and basically from talking to you and DMing you on Twitter, Andy, what does this mean? What does this mean? And you trying to explain the ins and outs of it to me is kind of now on the right track of the issue being that that holding company gets sold, and then the club technically hasn't been, because Swansea LLC still own the 80%. So I can see the problem. Steve, I'll come to you now, because my point when we were chatting about this before we started recording is that this would obviously it's a fresh start. It's maybe fresh impetus in terms of cash injection and stuff like that. And from my eyes, I come at it from a positive standpoint, as it's gone very stale under the current regime. They've obviously had the nightmare of a January window, and lessons aren't being learned. So fresh face, fresh ideas, and in particular a couple of the names that are rumoured to be involved, or possibly wanting to be involved, having some sort of tangible link to the area is better than the current. Now I'm looking at it as a glass half full kind of optimistic view. Do you share that, or are you kind of more reserved about the risks?
I mean, the problem is you just never know, do you? I mean, look, I think I'm always wary when someone comes in, because you always think, well, if they're coming in, they're not just coming in out of the goodness of their heart. There's not too many of them about. It certainly isn't for a club like us. So, I would always say I'm wary. I mean, I don't like this. It's not a secret. I think they've been largely useless. Talk of next level has been next level down. And I think if they continue to here, it could be next level down again at some point, because, they are a shambles, basically. But there is one thing I will give them. I don't think we're ever going to go out of business with them in charge. So I'll give them their due, at least on that one. But there's no guarantee that somebody else will come in and be any better. I mean, I think we're all hopeful that if someone was to buy it, then they would for the right reasons, and they try and, they back us. They make sure that we're, hopefully debt-free. So, yeah, I mean, look, there's a degree of hope, I think, wasn't there? Because this ownership were unpopular, whereas I think the previous regime obviously were very popular, and we were wary about, obviously, somebody new taking, and we were proven to be right. So, look, you've got to be very careful. I mean, look, I know a lot of people probably listening to this maybe weren't following us, 20 odd years ago, but obviously we went through a spell of really not having good owners, and obviously, yeah, we got Tony Petty, didn't we? Who, could have seen the club grow. So, look, we've always got to be very wary. And if someone's coming in, we need them to be honest and tell us exactly what they want to do. There's nothing wrong with saying that if they don't particularly want to spend money and they want to, run it as a business and be sensible. But I don't really have a problem with that. But the problem is these guys have talked absolute crap from day one and are just hidden in the States. And when they have put statements out, they're just, a big pile of hot air. So, yeah, look, we do need a new ownership. Whether this one's any good or not, it's always time will tell. And of course, if there is a takeover or just a change of shares, or whether it happens at all. But look, the current regime, if it carries on as it is, like I say, is eventually going to take us into League One. We don't want that. We've worked so hard to get into the upper half of the football pyramid, having through a lot of our history being in the bottom half of it, where we probably shouldn't be. We are now, I would say, probably in the division that is our level, if we're being honest. But we don't want to slip out of it, having worked so hard to get in there. There's no guarantee of getting back. I mean, you look at some of the other, there's a lot of big teams in League One at the moment, so it wouldn't be easy to win promotion back up. That's a certainty. So, let's hope that, there is something going on, and someone does take it on, then, that they've got good intentions, and, they give us hope again, because it does feel like at the moment, other than the Cardiff games, there isn't a lot to hope for. It's just a club drifting backwards, really. Nobody wants that, and that's why I think we so needed what happened on Saturday, just to get us feeling good again.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think after January, you could see there was a disconnect between those, excuse me, at the club and those who own the club. And we've seen it most transfer windows since they've come here, and it's not really something needs to change, and possibly something permanent needs to change. And lessons aren't being learned, then a permanent change is what is called for. So I think the three of us are in agreement that we're cautiously optimistic, but also that we just wait and see, because nothing is guaranteed in football. But yeah, as Steve said, just the glimmer of hope, not for crazy money. We don't want money thrown at the club that puts it in huge risk. but something that we can at least invest in tangible assets going forward and then become self-sufficient. That's what Flynn Downs was, and that's what Matt O'Reilly would have been. And players that we just need to go and shell out. And Ogbene at Rotherham now, players like that. Just getting the players in who will be worth more, all being well, years down the line. Just sensible investments, and that's what we're looking for. I think we're all in agreement there. But gents, look, we could talk Swans Cardiff, we could talk all this all night. I mean, I've really loved this podcast, Andy. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a nice change of tone tonight.
It was until the end, mate, until we brought the tone down. But you got to have a bit of balance, haven't you? So it's still a good news week, I reckon, and hopefully some better news coming up. We can but hope.
Yeah, it was a bad news sandwich or whatever it was. Yeah, a bit of good, bit of bad, bit of yeah. But there, fantastic. Thank you so much for coming back on, and hopefully. Next time we bring you on to talk about shares and sales, it's because something actually has happened this time, and we can talk about where that leaves the Swans and what the future, I suppose. As for the Jackcast, we'll be back, even though it feels like we've probably peaked right now. Next up is Coventry on Good Friday at the Liberty, and the weather forecast is meant to be a scorcher, so prepare for sunshine, enjoy yourself, and if it gets too warm, you can always go to an ice cream van and pick up a 99. Good night.